Hello and welcome back to another interesting analyst session by Vajiram and Ravi. Today we are going to comprehensively discuss 7 articles under 2 sections. These articles have been taken from the Indian Express and the Hindu. Section A, wherein we will analyze 2 articles in depth. First of them is about migrant workers in India, their issues, various measures that are needed towards their welfare. Second article is on the cause of preventive healthcare, various steps taken so far, and the obstacles that need to be addressed and the way forward for the same. Next, in the section B, which is the simplified sections, we will take another 5 articles along with the value addition part. This shall help you in your upcoming prelims. So stay tuned. So beginning with the first article of the day, with the Ministry of Labour and Employment coming out with the data that now India stands at the rank 1 when it comes to registering and documenting migrant labours with over 300 million population in it. Now we have to see this issue in entirety. So first we have to understand what are the prevailing issues with respect to migrant labour. There could be many types of migrants, but we'll particularly restrict ourselves to the migrant labour, the workforce. So let us start this issue discussing in comprehensive manner. First of all, understanding what are the major and overall issues that this migrant labour force faces. So first of all, wherever they go, there are 2 regions, source region and the destination regions. Now, whenever migrant labor reaches the destination regions, it's not usually the case or not always the case that they are in the similar or the familiar circumstances and situations. So generally, they face barriers. That could be language barriers with respect to ethnicity, language, culture, social norms, or their acceptance and assimilation in the region. They may not feel as familiar as in their own surroundings. Then they are not also sometimes not as easily accepted as the local labor. So this is the social, and this also impact their psychological status and of course the working productivity. Then second issue is political rights and social benefits. First of all, the basic political right, which is the right to vote, sometimes this is also not available to this kind of force, migrant labor. Why? Because they are not registered. They are not documented. They lack adequate data. And they also do not have access to IDs, voter IDs, Aadhaar IDs, to get access to various social benefits. Those social benefits could be in terms of health benefits or schemes prevailing in the states where they are working or in the states where they are coming from. And there are no agreements between these states. The interstate cooperation is also missing. The education sectors, the schemes that could be available to the children and the population of this segment is also, they are kept out of that bracket and that coverage also. Because largely the data is missing, the realistic data about the population of this labor, where they are distributed, various segments where they are working, under the various states where they are distributed, their concerns, that again varies. So that is missing. So like I said, overall social safety net is very small. Now we have also come out with the legal safeguards for them. Let's see what are there and what has been the evolution of that legal safeguard. So first of all, if you have to understand that legal safeguards, first let's see what are the top migrant exporters as in the states where these migrants go to, and exporters as in the source regions, the regions where there's migrant population originate, and the destination regions where they go for work. Migrants could be visiting to different states for various reasons. This could be first of initially for the marriage reason, or it could be work, it could be study, it could be family or other regions. But in this article, since the issue is about the migrant labor force, we will particularly be limited ourselves to the concerns and issues of working labor. So to tell you, migrant exporters, when it comes to migrant exporters, the places from these migrant laborers originate, the states like Uttarakhand, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Odisha, Karnataka, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Maharashtra, Rajasthan. And within these states, there are certain cities and areas where laborers particularly originate from. So just to give you a broad idea, there are also migrant cities where these population go and engage in different sort of works. What could that work could be? That could be in primary sector, that could be in manufacturing sector, they could be in public services, construction sector, traditional services, modern services, and so to say, and to add to your information, there are again, why, like I said, there are various reasons why these migrant again go from one place to another. We are concentrating with respect to the working labor and working labor force. Now there are certain states from where they go from. So just this idea, this gives you an idea that half of the population of Goa, Maharashtra and Kerala and Punjab is migrant. 9 states have migrant accounting for 40% over 40% of their population. So in these states, over 40% of the population coming from other states, they are migrant in nature. So this tells you about the status and present data or the existence of the labor and the conditions that they are living in or coming from. Now, as we said, the legal framework. So yes, we have had one act that originated in 1979, which is related to Interstate Migrant Workmen Act 1979. Now, in the recent years, this have been subsumed under 4 codes. One could be codes on wages, then codes on social security, then there is Industrial Relations Code, and 4th one is Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code. This article particularly talks and mentions e-Shram portal. E-Shram portal is deployed by Ministry of Labour and Employment to document the citizens or to document the unorganized worker sectors that could be in of informal nature, that could be construction worker, again gig and platform workers, street vendors, domestic workers, also migrant workers, agriculture workers, and also other sorts of unorganized workers. But like I said, it starts from documentation and getting the data on it. Afterwards, the actual taking policies and plans towards them, working towards their welfare, that starts. Having said that, there are certain issues with these codes also. Implementing and executing these codes remains a problem. They have formulated these codes, they have led out on the countrywide scale, but their implementation and execution remains weak. So this act is there, under which now 4 codes are there, which we have already discussed about. Like even after that, there are certain small startups or MSMEs, just to say, where the organizations or the startups where workers less than 300 are working, they are not documented under that. So that these workers are still left out of these social safety net. And when they are left out, of course, there are arbitrary working conditions, varies from person to person, and like they become source, or they become abused, or they get abused, and they are getting exploited because of the lack of the standardized code. Now, in this background, I would like to mention you, just as we passed through the COVID-19, we saw there was a crisis with respect to migrant labor also. Now, in the post-math, or when we were struggling through COVID-19 crisis, government came out with certain steps also. What were those steps? They were related to various aspects of the lives with respect to work, health, probably cooking and eating, and also food security. So first of all, there was Manrega work that was modified to include these sections also. There were labor law changes, they were made. Then a special credit facility was also included to help 5 million street vendors. This was with respect to migrant labor or street vendors especially, with working capital of up to 10,000 crore. Then there was national portability of public distribution cards. This was also came into being. This also came into being for the benefit of these migrant laborers. Then there was a scheme under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana to include this migrant labor section so that they could be housed properly. And of course, National Food Security Act, which was also implemented for ensuring food security towards this aspect and towards this segment of the population. Moving ahead, steps have also been taken by government, both by the state governments, various state governments, and central government. Central government, to begin with, they have taken they have subsumed 7 schemes relating to various regional areas of India, maybe various repatriates and migrants coming across, some from Tibet, some from POK region, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, some from Sri Lankan, and all those sorts of migrants and repatriates have been covered under the scheme of relief and rehabilitation of migrants and repatriates scheme. Remember the scheme's name? Apart from this, there is the ministry has also drafted National Migrant Labour Policy. So this is suggestive in nature and states are free to adopt it as per their convenience and suitability. Then there is One Nation, One Ration Card project, which has been rolled out across India. There is also affordable rental housing complexes, as you can see, which has been allotted to this segment of population. And then there is PM Garib Kalyan Yojana scheme, and we have also already mentioned about the E-Shram scheme to get them documented in the first place. Then various state governments have also taken steps. Just to give you an idea, I have taken two examples, one from Kerala, another from Jharkhand. Kerala has ensured various facilitation centers because a big segment of its population depends on migrant labor, maybe outside of India or some of them coming to Kerala. So they have ensured facilitation centers to ensure easy documentation and also facilitating various opportunities to them. Then there is Jharkhand's Safe and Responsible Migration Initiative. This coordinates the issues, this coordinates the various concerns of the migrant labor between the source region and the destination region. To add to this, in 2012, there was also one MOU which was signed between Odisha and the then Andhra Pradesh government to ensure the migrant laborers which were working in Andhra Pradesh so that their concerns could be addressed with cooperation between the two states. And these kind of efforts are necessary to ensure when migrant labor migrates from one state, that is the source region, to other state, that is the destination region, because their welfare is a comprehensive and a holistic subject, that where all stakeholders has to be there and has to complete their parts. Now, this was about to give you an idea on this topic of migrant labor. I hope now you're able and you should be able to write this answer. So note down the question, enumerate the reasons for migration in India. Also discuss various challenges that migrant worker population faces. So do write this answer. Now moving to the next article of the day, which is about prioritizing healthcare. And this article specifically mentions the direction and deviation and probably focus on preventive healthcare apart from curative. So curative healthcare is there and we are focusing on it, but there is a need to refocus on preventive healthcare as well, because what you can do at the preventive healthcare stage could reduce to an extent what you spend on curative healthcare. So it highlights that there is an urgent need to prioritize preventive healthcare, and of course there is a need to address all the aspects of the topic of healthcare where various issues we are facing with respect to this healthcare sector overall, but we will focus on preventive healthcare as well. So let's see what are the overall healthcare challenges that India faces. There is preventive healthcare issue which is not enough addressed. There are other issues as well. So let's just get into an idea what all the issues that healthcare in India overall is facing. First of all, there are rising non-communicable diseases. In fact, there is double burden of disease. As the second point highlights, there are also NCDs, which is non-communicable diseases, apart from communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases, they are rising of late as compared to communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases, for example, there could be diabetes, there could be cancer, there could be cardiovascular diseases. So all of these are non-communicable diseases, but their score and percentage is rising of late. Why? Because our lifestyles have become sedentary. We are not actively regulating and exercising. We are going through various stages where the anxiety, stress, and all of that has increased. Our diets have changed. Our diets have no longer are healthy, and we take to short-term and fast food courses. So that's why many of these lifestyle diseases, which are also known as non-communicable diseases, they are growing. If we see on the world scale, almost 70% of the deaths worldwide are caused or are happening at the present time because of the non-communicable diseases. In India, the percentage is about 63%. So these demands are urgent attention. And just to give you an example, only in the case of diabetes itself, we have 101 million people. It was just in 2019, few years back, it was around 70 million. So you can see the rise of 30 million within the gap of around 5 years. Now, like I said, there is double burden of diseases, not just non-communicable disease. We still are suffering from communicable diseases. Examples could be TB, tuberculosis, or malaria, or dengue, just to enlist few. So 3,000, just to give you an example, in the case of communicable diseases, almost 3,000 cases have been reported in 2023 of H3N2 influenza. So you have to remember these examples. They are going to substantiate your points when you're writing this kind of issues, when you're mentioning and quoting what are the basic challenges that India's healthcare faces. Then the growing issue and the elephant in the room, which we generally try to avoid, mental health emergency. The stress, the anxiety, the aggressive nature of people. So then, as per National Mental Health Survey, around 150 million Indian population need mental initiatives, and they need to be tackled, and they need interventions, active interventions. And only around 0.7 psychiatrists are available per 100,000 population. So that is the criteria, and that is the degree of the issues that we are facing. Then we also have AMR crisis. What is AMR crisis? It is antimicrobial resistance, which has been rising. Why? As per 2022 Lancet study, around 47% of antibiotic formulations that India deploy in private sector, again, lack approval from central drug regulator. So this leads to usage by various population segments, unnecessary usage, sometimes for the causes where it is not even required, and that increases the resistance, also leading to antimicrobial resistance. Then there are climate change induced health crisis, rising temperatures, extreme weather events. As you can see, both of these concerns have been rising. To substantiate this point, or to give you an example, around 191 billion potential labor hours. What I am talking in, the hours of work that has been lost in 2022 as per this study, 191 potential billion hours of work had been lost. Why? Because due to heat exposure. This was why it was led. It was led by rising temperatures. Similarly, extreme weather events, they have also been increased around 30% if we see over a matter of few years. If you compare it from 2019 to 2024, almost 30% rise have been witnessed in case of extreme weather events also. One example could be floods. So this is which highlights that key emerging healthcare issues that we are facing. Now, it's not that we have not taken various steps. We have. But there are few issues, or there are few concerns why India is still struggling to sustain effective healthcare despite multiple steps that India has undertaken. So what are those causes? To start with, first of all is fragmented governance. We have the governance, we have put in various institutions and mechanisms under the governance aspect also. But what's the main concern? What is the main issue? That it remains fragmented and piecemeal in nature. So as you see, the Clinical Establishment Act of 2000 is there, which standardizes these establishments. However, since healthcare is not a union subject, it is concurrent subject, it varies from state to state. That's why different standards have been adopted by various states as per their requirements. Sometimes this needs cooperation also, interstate, intrastate, and between center and state also, which issue remains unaddressed. Second point in this aspect is that healthcare financing remains meager. Only around 1.9% of India's GDP is devoted or dedicated or allocated to healthcare sector, which is very less. And this data is per Economic Survey 2023-24. Then there is urban-rural divide. Not just urban-rural, there is a divide between rich and poor. There is divide between various states as well, region to region. Then there is urban-rural divide also. Now, to give you an example, around 65 hospital centers are only catering to 50% population. This is as per Niti Aayog report. And that tells you that the division and the allocation and probably distribution of these establishments between urban and rural area is not even. Then another issue that we are facing is workforce challenges and brain drain. So we have enough of the man force that we are probably getting annually, but most of them are the post and the postings that they are being given, they are not attractive despite multiple incentives that the government of India or the government of various states has employed. The population of the human force is still not attracted enough to go into these regions, especially the rural and remote areas. And in many cases, it also leads to brain drain. Now, another concern is data management and monitoring gaps. 30% health facility registry. If you can remember, just recently there was Ayushman Bharat digital governance and integrated infrastructure, wherein there was this provision where all the health facility registry would be documented under this, and all from the public as well as the private. But if we go by private sector's concentration in that registry, you would find only 30% of those facilities have registered there, despite having 70% market share. So, like I said, their market share is 70%, but they are only 30%, they have got only 30% registration in the registry, which is not adequate. There is also lack of focus on preventive healthcare. So this was where our issue and article started from. So I would like to emphasize on this point as well, that around 40%, 14% or even less than 14% of the current health expenditure that we are deploying goes towards this section. However, there is a phenomenon, there is a proven norm that if we deploy or if we allocate more expenditure or more funds to the preventive healthcare, there probably be less need or less expenditures that needed to be given to the curative aspect. But our expenditure only remains at 14%. Now, supply chain issues and the pharmaceutical issues. We witnessed this issue prominently during the COVID-19. When we saw that supply chains were broken, even when we face the situation of insulators and probably sometimes ICU inadequateness, then we went around and probably manufactured our own. Even at this situation, even at this time, we face around 70% of our active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is also known as API. We still import 70% of API from other countries, particularly from China. So this is a concern not just from security aspect, but also a supply chain concern, which could be disrupted in case of emergencies. Now we will talk about the measures that India has taken from time to time to strengthen the healthcare system, overall healthcare system in India. So, yes, India has taken various steps, like I said, from time to time. Now, I would like to add to further what can be done, because like I said, that despite multiple steps, there could be a question, there could be a reason, there could be a discussion on why India is still struggling to sustain effective healthcare. So, we have already discussed various issues that still persist despite multiple attempts. Now, what else can be done on this topic? So, I will like to summarize on this with few points. First could be, we can strengthen our primary health care, which is about health and wellness centers. So they have been deployed on ground, but now we have to make them comprehensive nature so that they deals with all the aspect, right from diagnosis to giving the essential medicines. And we can also use these community health workers known by the name of Ashas. They are very well aware of the surroundings that they are in. They have community relations also, and they could be given basic training and could be deployed in all the areas so that this healthcare concern could be addressed properly. Then healthcare financing. Like I said, it only stands at 1.9% currently. We need to increase it to at least 2.5% of our GDP. Then There has to be integrated digital health ecosystem. Integrated in the sense of not just catering to one aspect of healthcare, that is primary healthcare, secondary and the tertiary. These all three have to be integrated. Again, we have to ensure that not just for covering the urban areas, but also the rural and remote areas. It has to be affordable, it has to be inclusive and accessible. So for that, we have to start with initial steps, starting with electronic health records so that they could be disseminated and transferred from wherever they are required by all of these patients and the doctor fraternity. Then there is a need of public-private partnership, because private healthcare is known for its quality. Yes, there is a reason, there is a cause of, or there is an excuse of affordability sometimes from the private sector. Therein the expertise of public healthcare comes in. So there has to be a combination of both public-private partnerships. There has to be a segment, and there has to be a provision of technology transfer. Then again, capacity building, because sometimes these public sector, public healthcare lose out on that aspect. There has to be monitoring mechanism that ensure that price do not increase or crosses a beyond border, which wherein it becomes impossible for people to afford those medicines, especially the essential ones. Then there is a case of independent monitoring also on all of these aspects. Another point that could add, and that from wherein we could work on to improve our healthcare system, is education and workforce development. So we have good education, but sometimes the provisions that we are undertaking, the incentives that we are giving, they are not turning out to be probably beneficial for these workforce. So we have to ensure mandatory rural posting. Yes, that is necessary, but we have to make them interesting, and we have to probably make them so that there are enough incentives for the population, for the human resource to go into these areas and serve there. They also get motivated. So probably by ways of incentives, promotions and rewards. One example could be taken from Chhattisgarh. So they have ensured these mechanisms. Their rural, they never face the lack of human resource when it comes to rural healthcare and rural health centers. So one successful case study be taken from Chhattisgarh case, and similar steps could be deployed as per the regions required across India. Then other steps, among other steps, another would be pharmaceutical and medical device manufacturing. It's just not enough to just focus on one aspect of healthcare, let's say the medicines. We also have to ensure that these equipments are manufactured, at least the basic ones and the essential ones, however advanced they are, in India. That reduces the cost, makes the healthcare affordable. For that, we can use Jan Aushadhi network, wherein some of these basic equipments could be given at affordable rates. Again, PLI schemes could be deployed to ensure that this manufacturing by the developments, companies and manufacturers remain profitable for them also. Then another point is about preventive healthcare focus. Like I said, we have started working on this aspect, but enough is not been done. We have taken good green initiatives on Ayush sector, wherein 4 or 5 all of these sectors have been utilized. We have taken various campaigns such as Eat Right India, Fit India, and these make the populace aware about the need to go towards the healthier lifestyle, active lifestyle, to take regular workouts, to choose healthy foods over the short-term fast foods. So all of this is necessary, because unless all the stakeholders, including the public and the people for which all of this is being done, unless they are not actively involved in all of these initiatives will not come to fruition in its entirety. Then another aspect is regulatory framework modernization. There is regulatory framework, but they are in pieces, they are in piecemeal. We have to ensure that it becomes unified. It becomes unified healthcare regulatory authority, at least at one point. And after that, as per the various sectors, they could be differentiated. Then there is a need to ensure accreditation systems are there so that quality remains up at subpar, and it remains standardized. There are pricing mechanism also, they have to be there for all the aspects of healthcare, right from equipments to medicines to doctors, and there are various incentives that are being given to various doctor fraternity and the sectors. Then the course of, it's not the last one, but yes, it is of prominent significance. Here we can see One Health approach. As we saw in the 2019 COVID-19 emergency, that there was a case of zoonotic diseases. So we have to ensure that not just human health, but animal health and the environment health also remain in the arena, where we are cooperating with 3 of these sectors. We are also working on the veterinary care. We are also taking care of our environmental sector apart from human healthcare, because it is this is entire, we are living in one biosphere, and everything, every living aspect and non-living aspect is connected. So that's why One Health approach has to be included in all the policy provisions that we undertake, all the measures that we put on ground. That being said, now is the time for mains practice question. Analyze the key issues faced by India's healthcare system and suggest steps to strengthen its accessibility for all sections of society. So try to answer this question. Now we will move towards the next section for today. This will have 5 articles, starting with the first one. This reads, Income Disparity Reduced in Financial Year 2023. Top 10% still holds large share of national income. So yes, this sounds positive, but there are concerns and caveats. So let's just go and study in deep. So first of all, this article tells about that India in last decade or so have seen there are constant upheaval and then downheaval for various reasons, where sometimes income inequality have increased, then have decreased, which is again better, and then have gone on to increase it. Why this happens? So we will analyze few of the reasons why this has been happening, and also will encounter what COVID-19 led to this trend. So let's start it with that income inequality in India has reduced in 2022 and 23 if we compare it to a few years back, this suggests that we have taken effective post-COVID, post-pandemic recovery measures, because when pandemic happened, we went and we adopted few pandemic recovery measures. This helped people with certain reasonable incomes to maintain their health standard, to maintain their education standard, to maintain their employment status, and this led to overall decrease in inequality. And this report is by PRICE, known by the People Research on India's Consumer Economy. So that you have to keep in mind. Now there are 2 key concepts when it comes to measuring this kind of inequality. First is Gini coefficient and second is Lorenz curve. Gini coefficient ranges from 0 to 1. And the more there is Gini coefficient is, the more inequality it stands for. So whenever Gini coefficient reaches or approaches 1, it means the inequality is increasing. In fact, 1 stands for perfect inequality. The 0, it means perfect equality, and that's something we aspire for. So it has to be low in order to indicate or demonstrate proper equality or improvement towards equality. Now, Lorenz curve. It is a graphical representation. It also represents income and wealth distribution among various sections of the population. So this is certain, just to tell you and give you the context of this article. This article also deals that despite the inequality share having decreased in 2022-23, we saw that the top entrenched concentration of wealth among the top income earners have increased. So this is a caveat. Then the struggles of bottom, there still the lowest top percent population still struggles. Let's know more of the findings and see what the report talks about. So like I said, Gini index is something that gives you the extent to which distribution of income or consumption among individuals or household deviates from a perfectly equal distribution. Now in India's case, from independence to 2020, 15 and 16, it improved from 0.46 to 0.36. So like I said, as the Gini coefficient or index decrease it, it sends a signal towards positive equality. But it got worsened to 0.506 by 2020 and 19. Why it happened suddenly in 2019 and 20 or probably 21? Why? Because we were stricken by COVID-19, which led to emerging situations and the inequality worsened. That was the reason why it dipped, why it worsened. Now it improved again in 2022, 2023 as a result of post-pandemic recovery efforts that Government of India undertook. Other things that this report or the prize report mentions, that there were schemes like Manrega, then there was direct benefit transfer, and of course financial inclusion initiatives, various credit facilities, various food security initiatives that the government undertook. It led to slight increase in the income share of the bottom 50%. So it's again another positive. And this section included laborers, traders, small business owners, small and marginal farmers, and their income witnessed rise from around 15.84% and 2020-21 to 22.82% in 2022-23. This data in itself you may probably let go of, but just keep in mind that this below criteria or the below bottom 50% that we are talking of, what it comprises of and the trend that it got increased, the income got increased. That you have to keep in mind. Another findings are that COVID-19 pandemic in 2020-21, this exacerbated existing inequalities. Like I said, that situation, it was an emergency situation. And we saw that many segment of the population suffered for many reasons. And within this COVID-19 also, we saw the top 10% share, income share, the people in that bracket witnessed increase in income. Why? Because we saw that there was increment of certain IT fields due to digitization, increased digitization, people taking to digital routes, and sectors like technology and e-commerce. They witnessed increment. That's why income concentration in those segments. At the same time, the bottom 50% suffered. They also faced job losses, they faced economic disparity and instability. So like I said, this shows a seesaw path of India's income inequality or the equality path. So we have been improving if we look at the post-independence time till now, but we have seen like seesaw pattern generally with periods of progress often countered by external disruptions or policy shortcomings. Now, to ensure that this trend remains positive in the sense that we saw the decreased inequality and we probably approaches towards zero of Gini coefficient, we have to ensure that we remains vigilant, we ensure vigilance, adaptive policy making, and a strong commitment with strong initiatives on ground tackling and including each segment of the population that needs the government support and initiative is there so that these disparities could be decreased across regions, across population, across various segment of the sections of the society. So this has to be ensured. Then only we can ensure that this income disparity will be reduced. Moving to the next article of the day, which talks and deals about the disease known by the name of osteoporosis and which relates to the intake and decrease of calcium in our bodies, especially our bones. So calcium intake exercise crucial for young adults to prevent osteoporosis. There is a reason why this article mentions young adults. So a few things to tell you about osteoporosis. This relates to the disease or probably a situation where you have shortage of calcium in your bones that decreases the strength of the bones, the mass density, the bone density, and probably renders it vulnerable to fractures also in severe cases. So let's read more about it. As per the input of these articles, it says that calcium intake and physical activity, these two are crucial points to ensure that throughout the ages and not just when a person is going to the young age, is crucial to maintain that bone mass, because there are few things about the bone formation and its reabsorption. So till a third decade of a person's life, generally bone formation takes place. But after that, this gets reduces to null, almost null, and it gets supplemented by bone absorption. For that, constant supplement of calcium is necessary. Therein comes the role of calcium intake through dairy products or other sources. So for that also you have to maintain a healthy lifestyle. You have to say to no to smoking, to drinking. Even if it is single glass, you have to say no to it. You have to ensure that you are serious and disciplined about your physical activity, even if it is meant for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And because otherwise, when the bone density or bone mass decreases, it leads to increased incidences of bone fractures, and which is worsened conditions, and it decreases, like I said, bone mass. Why it happens? Because the bone mass and density gets decreased, renders it vulnerable to its breakage and leads to fractures. This article and these paragraphs also read the similar things. There has to be balance for this bone mass has to be maintained, and for the maintenance of it, there has to be balance between bone resorption and bone remodeling. But when this gets disrupted by the life age, or for the lack of calcium intake, or probably due to lifestyle changes such as taking to smoking, taking to sedentary lifestyle, taking to drinking, that disrupts and it leads to fragile bones. Then, like I said, bone mass formation takes place till the 3rd decade of a life cycle of a human. And it has, after that, or even till then, you have to constantly ensure usage and consumption of dairy products in your daily dietary supplements. You have to ensure that you are regular with outdoor activities. And I'm not talking out very exerting outdoor activities, but basic minimum 30-45 minutes of outdoor activities. That could be simple walk, or could be some playing out some outdoor activity. You have to ensure that lifestyle doesn't remain sedentary. It not only is harmful for your mental balance, for ensuring that stress, anxiety and all of these concerns remain at bay, but also ensuring your physical health. Then you have to ensure that supplement dependence remains at bay. So you have to ensure that you take to dairy products or other sources of calcium, so that this issue doesn't get worsened. Like I said, this article specially tells about that bone mass peaks during the 3rd decade of life, after which bone resorption exceeds bone formation, accelerating bone loss. This repeats the same sentiment which I just said. Now, there are 2 solutions for this. Generally, as per this page or this article, there are 2 solutions, which varies as per the stage where the patient is lying. There could be a situation where this disease has just, or this situation has just arrived. So for that, one solution is bisphosphonate. As I said, this is one of the solutions. And when the situation has worsened, or probably, especially when bone mineral density is low, in that case, this is not a solution, but you have to take to bone forming agents. So you can remember these 2 solutions just to give you an idea. Now, to give you infographics or clear image, this is a depiction of a healthy bone, as you can see here. But osteoporotic bone, when it starts becoming osteoporotic, then you would see that there are microarchitectural deterioration. In this case, bone resorption increases and bone formation decreases. So now there is a constant need to supplement the supply of calcium to our bones so that they remain healthy. And if that is not done, the situation worsens, the fracture happens, and the only solution then remains is bone forming agents. So this was the overall gist related to this article. Now moving on to the next article of the day, which is about TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. It is soon to bring tighter regulations to control spam calls that we usually get on our phones. Sometimes we have knowingly or unknowingly subscribed them, or sometimes we have not even subscribed them. Our phone numbers have been probably are out, and that's why we are getting all those kind of spam calls. Now, TRAI has decided to conduct a pilot project on it to ensure that registry is there where all the details of the consumers and what sort of calls, or probably if they have chosen to opt out of it, then they are keeping a record of it and ensuring that that is also happening. Because sometimes, despite we not allowing those kind of calls, we still get such calls. So now, like I said, the TRAI has decided to pilot project which will begin. It will ensure all of its data, the people, the consumers, what have they chosen, if they have chosen whether the opt-outs or not, and it will maintain its data on digital distributed ledger technology platform. It will keep that account, it will keep verifying that current validity and offering opt-outs to those keen on it. So whoever wanted, this platform will keep a strong registry and documentation about it. Why? Because TRAI focus, this authority is not just to ensure that the business and this telecom sector proffers and probably improves, but also it has to ensure the interest of the consumer also. We only want what we have chosen. We as, for example, we only pay for the services that we need. Similarly, we do not want the things that we have not opted for. So that is the logic. Now it will ensure verifications and opt-outs. Like I said, just to summarize, there are industry interests, there are also consumer interest, and TRAI wants to make a balance out of it. And it is going to follow the principle of paying only for the services needed, not extra services. This is not going to be imposed on consumers. It will remain on-demand services. Some things and few details about this regulatory authority. Of course, it is a statutory authority driven by Telecom Regulatory Authority Act of 1997. The headquarters is in New Delhi. Please remember this. It stands from Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, and it creates and nurture conditions for this telecommunication sector's growth. Undertakes and involves many stakeholders, takes care and caters to their interest, and also ensures cooperation. Then it regulates telecom services also. Fixation, revision of tariffs for telecom services, so that the sectors and the companies that are involved in, they also remain profitable, and it also becomes affordable for the end last mile connectivity citizens and customers. It ensures that fair and transparent policy environment exists. There is a level playing field for entrants who are entering into the field, and there is a fair competition. There are whoever wants to enter this sector, they get enough and almost equitable amount of incentives and provisions. So that is the overall interested authorities and interested opportunities and probably objectives of TRAI. Now we'll move on and read about RRTS, Rapid Rail Transit System, what it is and why recently it has been in news. Recently we saw the Prime Minister inaugurated Delhi section of RRTS. This is probably the first RRTS that we have been witnessing in India. There are few others that are planned in future, upcoming future, but this is the first. And Meerut, now the distance to Meerut from Delhi only remains 40 minutes away. So let's read more about it. It's like I said, it's a rapid rail transit system. It's a different from the metro transport system. It is a multi-modal. It remains a very seamless connectivity with various models of transportation. Could be buses, could be trains, could be metros. So one of its segment has been operationalized when Prime Minister Modi inaugurated that segment, and it will include the trains which are, there could be a question in your prelims and they could ask what are those trains which are running on this RRTS, Rapid Rail Transit System, which has started from Meerut or which has started from Delhi to Meerut recently. So your answer has to be, those are Namo Bharat trains. These are they are going to achieve a speed about 150 to 160 kilometers per hour. And travel time in this segment, this segment which has been operationalized, it will now has become only a 40 minutes duration travel, and the time has been reduced almost by 1/3. It is a project, or it was a scheme that was launched in 2019. Now it has been able to become operationalized. It was projected at the cost of 30,000 crore. And it is the first of RRTS project of India's, which is Delhi Meerut RRTS project or the corridor. It has two kind of coaches, standard and premium. Of course, premium standard ones are more affordable. Then like I said, it is the train are Namo Bharat trains that will run on this corridor, and it will cover of around 58 kilometers distance between Delhi and Meerut within 40 minutes. It has reduced the travel time by 1/3. Now, few features of RRTS. It relates to GS3 aspect of an infrastructure or economic development, or it could also be about an aspect of inclusive growth, or probably better urbanization, or the connectivity between rural and urban areas, or better employment also. So, certain of these features are that it is a high-speed trail. Like I said, it runs at around minimum 150 and it goes up to 160 to 180 kilometers per hour. It reduces travel time significantly. I have already given you this example in this present context. Priority corridors are NCR one that has been running in NCR Delhi, which is the same Delhi Meerut RRTS corridor, and other future corridors which are planned would be Delhi Gurugram and Delhi Panipat. Now it would have world-class infrastructure. These are air conditioned, that these are multimodal integration, like I said, connected with metros, buses, and parking areas have also been established. It has dedicated lanes for faster operation and to ensure this kind of speed of 160 to 180 kilometers per hour. Frequency, yes, in this case of the recent one that has been operationalized and launched and inaugurated, therein you would see that every 15 minutes this Namo Bharat will come on the platform, and generally the feature of RRTS is to every 5 to 10 or to 15 minutes. Now, what are the benefits? So, in short, or to summarize them, there are economic benefits, there are social benefits, there are environmental benefits. Also, this relates to urbanization, seamless connectivity, increased trade, increased transportation, economic benefit in the form of regional connectivity, reduced cost of transportation. This will, of course, ensure and foster economic growth of various sectors, of various population segments also. Reduce commuting costs, save time so that you can use the same time for other productive activities. And of course, it will include the human force and generate jobs also. Then social benefits, that it becomes the connectivity, the reduced time, and it becomes affordable also. And it solves the concern of long distance travel. Environment effect, again, reduced gas emissions or carbon emissions. It will reduce the air pollution in NCR, which is a constant issue every winters in Delhi NCR. It will reduce vehicular congestion also. It will increase the use of public transport and dependency on private vehicles. That would reduce the traffic aspect also. These will be energy efficient if you compare it with buses, or if you compare it with other source or maybe other vehicles. It will be energy efficient systems. There could be further inventions and innovations when it comes to technology and generating and deploying renewable energy in the transportation or movement of these rapid rails. Then urbanization, it will lead to balanced urban growth. The development from urban areas will also move to these rural remote areas and to other satellite regions that are being connected. Peri-urban and urban areas will be developed. Urban migration pressure, wherein population, the rural population have to congested in urban areas because they cannot to and fro on daily basis. So that will help or probably ease the pressure on that segment as well. Now the another articles which reads that in Assam highway death, spotlight on uncommon victim, which is in this case is golden langur. In Assam's case, we often hear news of one-horned rhinoceros, but now the species in the limelight is golden langur. Why is that the case? Let's read more. So this incident has happened in the area of Bongai Gaon of Assam, and there is forest reserve also there. And there is generally community, almost of 19-20 villages are involved in saving and preserving this species. They value it as much as one-horned rhinoceros are placed value in the aspect of Assam or in the context of Assam. Now they have been protesting and they have been raising concerns from quite some time, and now the authorities have noticed So yes, let's just read more about this. Recently, this incident happened. Why? Because these golden langurs were trying to jump across a highway. Initially, highways were not that broad, not that wide, so they could make those jumps. Or also, there were trees on both sides of the highway, so those jumps were used to be easy, and there were less sort of incidents and deaths and mortality in case of golden langur. But now, since the trees have been removed, also the lanes have become wider, they are not able to jump, so they are going across the highway. And when the speedy vehicles are coming, even if those vehicles are trying to slow down, sometimes it's almost impossible to save these lives. That's why this issue is getting highlighted. Now read. This golden langur actually assumes the status of endangered species as per IUCN Red Book data, and it also has the endangered status in India as well as Bhutan. And this case has happened where Kakoi Jana Reserve Forest is there. And if we talk about the status of this golden langurs in India, we would find around 7,900 to 8,000 of about in India. And in this forest reserve, Kakoi Jana Forest Reserve, we have 500 to 600 of golden langurs. Around 34 foothill villages surrounding that reserves have came ahead, and they have actively working for the protection of the species, because they attach value to these species, like I said. And it is endemic to Assam, Western Assam particularly, and Bhutan. Now, there has been 3 or 4 similar cases in past month where 3 died because of similar vehicular accidents and 1 because of electrocution. So now let's read what these people have discussed with authorities and what authorities has been talking about the solutions. So over the years, they have also removed trees. Now, why these langurs are crossing across the highways, why they are coming into the human habitations? So there is a reason, prominent reason, specific being that there were trees earlier, they used to remain there and they used to source their food like bamboo and those bearing fruits. But now those trees have been disappearing or almost disappeared from the reserve forest. This has forced them to come to the villages. That is again not an issue, because these villages remain in synonymity or probably aligning with their lifestyle with these golden langurs. Now the problem is when they go back and cross these roads to go back to the forest, they face these kind of speedy vehicular accidents, and then they of course achieve mortality. Now, since, like I said, highway is very broad, trees have been felled, they find it difficult to jump and they run across the road. Even after the development of these broad highways, the local communities have come forward and asked for establishment of hanging bridges. So this could help these golden langurs to go across these highways and save their lives. So they have discussed this. In the short term, now authorities are talking about that in short term, they will ask to take up measures that will ensure slowdown of the traffic movement on those roads or on those hot spots. First of all, we have to identify those hot spots, ensure probably some bumps on roads where those traffic could be slowed down, at least in the immediate context. And in longer term, we have to take to some rope way type loop bridges or the hanging bridges like this community has been discussing. Also, to ensure that electrocution does not lead to death of these animals, we have to ensure plastic coating of electrical wires. So these 3-4 issues are there, which also highlights that we have to take care, why it is important to address the One Health concern, why One Health approach, why it is important to ensure that there is no human-man conflict, why we have to ensure that their habitat remains pristine, because the reason being primarily their habitats have been destroyed. So they are moving to these villages, and despite their having in coexisting or coexistence relations with these villages, now the development of these development activities are probably obstructing their lifestyle. So we have to ensure and sustainable ways to ensure that despite these highways, we develop these kind of bridges and plastic coating of electric wires so their lives are saved and they remain sanctified. So now few additions to tell you about this. What is or where is this Kakoijana Forest Reserve is located. I have already mentioned it is in the district of Bongaigaon in Assam state. In Assam, now this is one of the biodiversity hotspot. Apart from golden langur, which this reserve is famous for, there are also elephants, there are also deers and various bird species apart from leopards. It is also rich in plant diversity. It includes medicinal plants and it has a dense vegetation. And of course, it has golden langur habitat. It is, like I said, as per IUCN Red List, it is an endangered category. Please remember that this category, this could be asked in your prelims question, as your prelims question in your upcoming prelims. And this Kakoijana Reserve Forest, it's about 17,000 hectares. You can just know for your knowledge. So that is something that could be handy in your answering prelims question. So this was the session for today. I hope that this was helpful and fruitful session for you. Thank you and all the best.